Okay, hello. We're doing something very different for me today. You might notice, with any astute observation skills of yours, that there's no second person in the guest window. Heather, who's just popped in, hello. There's no camera, I should say, because today I'm doing a book club first for me. None of my regular book club guests were available to join me, and a lot of other ones who read the book today in our Discord would rather just be in the chat, aren't really on camera, on stream guests, which is fine, fair, all, your comfort level. The point of this book club that I started is you interact exactly how much or how little you want. Like, you do whatever's most comfortable for you. But I was like, you know what? This book has discussion questions in the back and like prompts. So I was like, you know what? And like some of us read it, we'd like to talk about it. So why not? Let's I said, would people be interested in a solo book club stream where it's just me talking my opinions and talking to the chat? And people said, yeah. So we're doing that. We're doing that today. It's gonna feel weird. It's funny because normal streams, like when I'm doing gaming streams, this is what you do. You're the only one there. You're having just a discourse with you in chat. You're not talking to someone in voice or on cam with you unless you're doing a multiplayer game, but this just feels interesting for some reason. So yeah, I've left the guest camera empty, but it'll have the chat, the Twitch chat in there for anyone who might be watching and joining us alongside. So welcome on in. Or if you watch us on YouTube later, then welcome. Thanks for being here. Also, it is June. Happy Pride. Happy Pride Month, everybody. I just went, hold on, I should have got a bookmark so I can put these in later. We're just going to throw this in here. I got my Pride Month nails done. I didn't get super elaborate nail art, but I got the bisexual pride flag on my nails. We have the wider pink, the wider blue, the thinner purple stripe in the middle. Boom. Happy Pride Month. And these nails are very appropriate for this book, which I'm sure we'll get into when we start discussing it. I wanted to make sure that the book we chose, we read this book during the month of May, but it was going to be discussed on stream, obviously in June, which is Pride. So we made sure all the lit books we were voting from in May were all by queer authors and or had queer characters, featured queer stories, LGBTQ plus characters. So this is a book that won, and I was so excited when this one won because this has been on my TBR, on my shelf, for freaking ages. I also follow the author on TikTok, and I enjoy the content she makes on TikTok, and also just her, at least the persona she presents to the internet, because obviously I do not know her as or know them, sorry, correct pronouns. I do not know them as a person. But yeah, so I've been waiting to read this forever. Also, it's a bit more of the sci-fi slash fantasy and like historical reimagining. So it's like a bit different from a lot of the fantasy romantasy that I tend to fall into and stick with a lot, So I was very excited, and it did not disappoint. My overall star rating, and then we'll get to the discussion questions after my general impression, I gave it 4.75 stars. I gave it a 5 on Goodreads because you have to. But on things like Storygraph, real rating 4.75. And where it lost that tiny little bit of a star, originally it would have lost like a half a star, but then the character got some self-awareness, and by the end of the book was like, wow, I can't believe I was so judgmental, and I can't believe I was so quick to say these things. And I'm like, thank you, because that was bugging me too. So it only became a quarter of a star deducted. There we go. Futuristic, historical fantasy, science fiction. There we go. That's a mouthful, but that is what this is. Yes. And for anyone curious, I'll just read the little, what's the word? Summary blurb on the back, something, before we get into it. In Waxia, the highest honor for a young girl is to be selected as a concubine pilot. Supporters paired up with male pilots to power up chrysalises, the giant transforming mechas that humanity relies on to battle the massive aliens that lurk beyond the Great Wall. But the honor often ends in death, and when 18-year-old Zhetian's sister is killed by an ace male pilot, Zhetian signs up to avenge her. By the way, the captions are going to struggle. The names are all, like, I believe Chinese names in origin. So it's spelled Zetian Who knows what Pixel Chat is saying I'm pronouncing when I say that. So I apologize, captions users, but hey ho. I know how the names are pronounced because I listened to the audiobook, and I'll talk about that later as well. Okay, so Zhitian signs up to avenge her sister. The vengeance is swift, brutal, and unexpected, leaving her labeled as an Iron Widow, a much-feared kind of female pilot who can sacrifice boys to power up chrysalises instead of the other way around. To tame her unnerving yet invaluable mental strength, she is paired up with Li Shimin, the strongest and most controversial male pilot in Wuxia. But now that Zhitian has had a taste of power, she will not cower so easily. She will miss no opportunity to leverage her and Shumen's combined might and infamy and survive attempt after attempt on her life until she can figure out why the pilot system relies so heavily on destroying girls' lives. All right. So I said I own the physical book. Obviously, I bought it ages ago, but I actually read the audiobook for book club because anyone who watches my other content, my regular streams, you know we're just had the 1 month anniversary of getting a puppy. My husband and I got a puppy. His name is McIntyre. He's adorable. He's also a menace, but he's adorable. And that obviously is eating up a lot of our time, a lot of our energy, and the windows of time where he is napping or not needing our constant supervision. I also have to do all my housework chores. I need to do my job because I work part-time from home. I have so much to do, so there have been less streams, but it also means I have less time to just sit and read. So I started getting audiobooks from my library so I could listen to them while I'm puppy wrangling. And I am so glad I actually read the audiobook in this one because the narrator was great. I'm very picky. But like I said, since it is written by an Asian author and all the names, I believe, are Chinese because I think it's based on, it's like a reimagining of Chinese history. If I'm wrong, I deeply apologize. I probably should have made 100% sure before I started stream. I'm so glad I listened to the audiobook because, for example, like, again, captions users, so sorry. The main character's name is Wu Zhitian, and I think I'm saying that correctly. I'm probably still saying it with a bit of a white girl anglicized pronunciation, but from what I remember. But again, it's spelled Zetian, and I would have just, like, totally butchered that in my anglophone way and said, like, Zetian or something like that when reading it, or Zadian, who the heck knows. So I was very happy to read the audiobook and hear everything pronounced correctly. And I didn't have to speed it up. I listened to it on regular one-time speed, which is big praise for that narrator, but also for the writing, because the one thing I will say is from my limited experience and my time using audiobooks, which I'm doing more and more now, it's, for me, one of the signs that a book maybe is not going to be a 5-star for me when I have to speed it up because I'm like, I just need to get through this. That's a sign. Whereas this one, I did not want. Part of the book, is so fast paced. I feel like I was already moving at a breakneck speed. If I sped up the audiobook narrator, I would have just probably been like, hold on, and had to rewind a bunch of things all the time to make sure I was keeping up, you know? So yes, it is fast paced. The story just constantly evolving. The characters felt very, very relatable. And oh my god, I will say, reading this book as a like female identifying femme presenting woman in 2025, all I'm gonna say is only read this book if you are someone who is femme presenting and or female identifying. If you are ready to just sit in this feminine rage, like, reading this book makes me feel the same way as when I listened to the song Labor by Paris Paloma? Faith Paloma? Oh, it's gonna bother me. It's my favorite song. Now, hold on. Labor. You Make Me Do Too Much Labor song. Who sings it? Paris Paloma. I was right. That's her name. If you haven't heard that song, fucking listen to it. A life-changing experience. But anyways, if you have heard it, and even if you don't think you've heard it, you've probably heard it on TikTok as a sound for, like, viral, just, like, feminine rage videos. And with the state of the world in 2025, with the state of women's rights to their own bodies, like the war for women's bodies going on south of my border as a Canadian in the States, let alone in other countries around the world, so many conversations about misogyny in general, and then you read this, and I'm just like, oh god, amplify everything up to a million. Yeah, the book is feminism to the like 1,000th degree. That's what I'm saying. But it just makes you just like sit in that. Like all the feminine rage that already exists in my soul and my heart. The flames and the book's just going like this and just like fanning those flames as I read and I listened to it. And it's just this wild read because obviously the concept of it here, maybe even like 5, 10, 20 years ago, it wasn't written that long ago. But like if you had read it in that time, I'll find out when it was written, actually. I'm going to double check. 2021, 4 years ago. This book was written 4 years ago. But in the time since, let alone 4 years ago, it's just, you read it and you're like, this is such a like, at first your brain is like, this is an extreme way to talk about present day, like modern sexism issues in the world, but they take it, they use like the sci-fi fantasy and like girls dying to power up like these pilots and the boys survive, and it's such an extreme narrative. But then you look at what's happening in 2025 and it doesn't feel that extreme. I'm like, this could happen. I would buy this. Not so much the we're in robots fighting aliens thing, but the whole idea of like, oh, there's this whole military political system that is perpetuating lies and stereotypes and manipulating women to raise up mediocre men. Like, that's happening. That's literally happening in our world. This is just the version with robots and aliens. You know what I mean? So only read this if you're someone who, is either a woman, female identifying, presenting, or just, someone that has empathy and cares about equality. If you're willing to just really sit in some rage, some feminine rage. I'll keep saying it's a tagline for this book. Other than that, again, the action scenes are very well done. A lot of times in sci-fi books or even fantasy books that have complex battle scenes, I find my brain almost tends to zone out sometimes during some of the combat, and like I couldn't tell you exactly what happened like in the fights. I can't tell you how they did it, but by the end of the scene I can tell you like who won. I can tell you the broad strokes, but I don't see the fight scene play out in my head like a movie. I have a really hard time picturing combat, but I picture the rest of the book like a movie in my head when I read. That's how my brain works. But this one, I could see it. I could see the fight scenes because the author does a great job at portraying the combat as well, and the action, not just the political intrigue, the romantic stuff. Like every part of this book I could fully just like envision, and I loved it. Maybe it was also because I read it audiobook style. Maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know. But either way, and again, the only place where it lost that little bit of star for me was our main character, Jetian, at the beginning. Also, I had to keep reminding myself, she is young. She is a teenager. Is she 18? Because I think she's an adult, but she's barely an adult. She's still like a baby in her brain, but she's a legal adult, I think, from what I remember. I don't know. It would make it real gross, parts of it, if it wasn't, but also there's times when I mentioned, yeah, she's 18. Thank you, Heather. So, still obviously young, impressionable, hot-headed, brain still forming, but a legal adult. But even knowing that, my main gripe was the beginning. It's like she's just so tunnel vision and so quick. Like she's so mad at so many things in the world and the system, as she should be. And one of those things is like judging and boiling people down to how they can be used, mostly women, and their essence in like a millisecond, and like taking a whole complex person and like narrowing them down to the simplest thing. But then she does that to other people. But again, like characters, especially in my opinion, protagonists should be flawed. Because if they're just pillars of virtue and they're just there to be the good guy who wins all the time but has nothing problematic about them, they're less exciting and they're less real. So I get that she needed flaws, but it was still just so, there are times where I just wanted to like reach in there and just like smack her and be like, bitch, you want to be considered complex, you want empathy, you want grace, like you need to tone down, you need to dial back the judgment. Specifically to Ximin, like one of the other main characters, one of the male main characters, and one of the ones she gets closest to and spends the most time with. But at the beginning, it was And you'd think I'd love it, 'cause I'm an enemies to lovers bitch. That's one of my favorite tropes of all time. And this definitely had that. But it was almost like the enemies part was too good. It was too much enemies to lovers. She was so horrifically judgmental to him. And like at the beginning, given his reputation, because I don't want to spoil this book because I want people to read it. Well, we'll see what the discussion guide says. I might end up spoiling it. We're keeping the beginning spoiler free. But there's a lot of reasons she should judge him, or a lot of reasons to have her judge him at face value when she first meets him. His history, the rumors, what little information she does know is not good. I'll give her that. But then when he gives her context, like as she learns more about him in the beginning, she responds in like the worst possible way, in my opinion. And it just made me so mad. But again, I had to keep her on it. She is 18. She is emotional. She is a victim of abuse. All these things. She is not a 33-year-old woman who is reading this from the outside and able to like process things with more nuance. But it just made me mad enough. I took off that quarter star because I'm petty. Okay? I am. But yes, and I love me a book that does polyamory ethically, does polyamory, in my opinion, from my experience in that community and being in polyamorous relationships for a time, did it correctly and ethically, but also it's not like this big, like either super overly sexual and or scandalous thing. It's just something that happens. It's something that naturally occurred in the book, and it was like, yes, it was a semi-significant plot point, but not in a sensationalized way, not in a like, oh, we're doing polyamory because it's meant to be this super like taboo and hot and sexual thing. It was almost like romantic polyamory and very little physical, like very little sexual. So I love that too. I'm a sucker for good polyamory in books. Yes, Heather, you bring up a very valid point about my gripe with how judgmental she was to Xiran. Again, I'm aware there were all these reasons for it. And like I said, she also needed flaws because it made her feel more real. Totally get it. But I couldn't. It's one of the things where I can understand I can understand why this is here. I acknowledge it. I get why it exists. It's probably for the best. But there were times where it just made me so mad. Particularly, okay, we're now going to get to the spoilery parts. So that was our spoiler-free discussion, our overarching broad strokes discussion. We're going to get to specific spoilers and discussion questions very soon. So if you're watching this and you want to read this, now's the time to tune away and come back and watch the VOD or the YouTube after you've read this book. The part where she finds out, hey, here's why I murdered my family, and it was literally to try and protect and then avenge a girl who was raped, and then also like, oh, and like, hey, I've been literally abused, I've been given an addiction against my will, and then had that used against me to keep serving this military complex, all these things, and she's like, well, that's no excuse, you should have just killed yourself. I was like, fucking hell, Jesus Christ, have a millisecond of grace here. Like, the part where she was like, literally, it was like, you haven't fought hard enough against what's been done to you, and you should have killed yourself. When he literally said, I literally tried to murder my captors so I could stop being part of the system that is perpetuating the problem. And she was like, well, that's not good enough. And later, she has her epiphany and was like, oh my God, yeah, he did literally try and break free and dismantle the system and like kill his captors. He did try. He wasn't just sitting here being an active participant in this thing. Yeah, I guess he did tell me that. I guess I really was too hard on him. But so like the growth was there and I appreciate it. But the beginning, like before the growth happened, I was just like, girl, please, because I was already getting attached to the Iron Demon, as he is called, the Iron Widow and the Iron Demon. I think that's his moniker. But yeah. So, this book has discussion questions. Also, Heather, as someone who read the book, feel free if you have thoughts, opinions, questions, or you have anything you want to ask my opinion on about this book, interject at any time. Absolutely. Or anyone else in chat who may be lurking. Okay. Oh, the first question is what I was just talking about. All right, here we go. Was Zetian justified in being angry at Ximin for not letting himself be killed so he would stop killing the female pilots he linked with? And again, my first thought was, no, bitch, holy shit, that is such an aggressive and judgmental thing to say, and also such a hard thing to ask. Like, you should have had the mental, in this case, strength in, most of the time, having the desire to unalive yourself, not strength, opposite of that. No, bad. But like, it's still a very hard thing to do, and having her be like, well, you should have done that so quickly, it's like, no, your response to like her, she was not justified in that anger at all. But then it does say, consider that Zetian's world is one in which women and girls have internalized the notion that self-sacrifice is the ultimate virtue. Can you see her still being angry if she were brought up as a boy? I mean, but if she were brought up as a boy, who's to say any of this? Like, no, she wouldn't be angry because, especially with her spirit pressure, which is basically like their, like a way to measure their power and gauge how great they will be at piloting these mech robots, these alien robots. She would have been fucking running the world. She would have been even like a ultimate celebrity, beloved by all, winning battles left and right. Like that. She probably wouldn't have been angry at all because she would have been in no position because it wouldn't even have crossed her mind. So again, my opinion is she is not justified in her anger, but I see where, like, she is not morally justified, but I completely understand why she reacted that way. And I understand where the anger came from. But it still made me as a reader so mad in that moment. I was like, holy shit. This man just poured his heart out to you, bared his soul, gave you so much context you did not have, and has like a One Piece level traumatic backstory that he's just unloaded to you. And you're and you give zero fucks. Like, holy moly. Oh, the second book. You want to know what's so funny, Heather? Hold on. The second book, let me make sure I don't show my address, sitting right here. I ordered it, it's delivered. The second book is in this box. Haven't even opened it yet because, again, I don't have time to read physical books. I'll probably end up reading the audiobook of it as well, but I want the physical book trophy to go on my bookshelf with this one. All right, next question, because we kind of already talked about that first one inadvertently. Zetian feels that public opinion about her is too negative to change and instead decides to capitalize on her controversial image. Can you think of any real-life parallels of female celebrities whose fame feeds off controversy? Do you think we tend to judge female celebrities more harshly than male ones? Jesus Christ. Resounding just yes! Big red button, yes! Not even celebrities. Women in any field, in my opinion. Like, women, if we're talking about parents, like a single mom will be judged so much more harshly than the dad that left, or a single dad. Moms are judged for parenting mistakes far more harshly than dads, I would say, in my opinion. Celebrities, obviously, like the whole Britney Spears situation, or for a modern one, like look at Livy Dunn, who's literally like, somehow my private flight information is being leaked so middle-aged men can stalk me at airports, and like, how is this happening? And it's a growing problem for many gymnasts and athletes. Content creators, women are judged far more harshly than male content creators. Women get away with far less, and women are held to different standards. It doesn't matter what industry, profession, or sphere of life, women are judged more harshly than men. That is my opinion, but I would go so far as to say that is a fact. And I, give someone a few hours, I could probably go write you a fucking essay and pick any industry, pick any place. So yeah, obviously that part is very relatable, where she's using controversy to feed off her, but she's not doing it because she wants to. She's not doing it because she's like, controversy and clickbait is great for views and for celebrity. She's doing it because she feels that she has no other choice. We know, of course, there's lots of people who feed into controversy or clickbait or rage bait in modern day terms because they are just, again, for money and for views and for notoriety. But that's a whole different story. But yeah, just, can you think of any real life? I'm like, any? Can I think of dozens? Like, holy moly. I think I have a bookmark actually on my Chrome browser, because a few years ago, during like one of the peaks of COVID, and when everything was it was like right when things had starting to open back up, but we were still keeping a lot of precautions in place. We aren't now, like masking and distancing and stuff. I was, because again, pre-COVID, I was a stage and events manager, and I worked a lot in the opera world, opera sphere. And a director I'd worked with was working on an opera production at a university, and I can't remember the opera, but they were spinning, it was like an older, like not a modern opera, older opera, and they were spinning the context to be about a female content creator. And she knew I did live streaming and asked if I could do like a little mini talk presentation to her cast to talk about the misogyny that exists in content creation and like the treatment of being a woman content creator versus a male content creator. And I did a lot of research rather than just, so it wasn't purely anecdotal. I pulled up all these stats, about, like harassment and things like that women receive versus men. And I think I bookmarked that on my Chrome, so I still have it. I have all the stats and all the things I looked up. And that was in like 2021 or 2022. So let alone now. Like, especially, again, in the current day, in June of 2025, where we sit right now, given what is going on in certain parts of the world, only getting worse, you know? Those flames only being fanned. Third question. What are some of Washia's ideas and social values around gender roles? Do you see any of these mirrored in our own society? Well, obviously, again, gender roles there is that the most noble thing a woman can do is self-sacrifice. It's either to be a concubine pilot and be sacrificed for the man, or to, again, like be good, dutiful, submissive wife and have babies to become pilots in this world. And I'd say, again, one of the parallels, there are many parts of the world and society in various countries where, again, the most noble thing, or like the most traditional and best thing women can do is be a good wife and raise a family, right? So that part, yeah, mirrored in modern day society. Also the idea, again, where to me, one of the things I think is most carries over the most, the idea that, again, self-sacrifice being the most virtuous thing a woman can do. Because look at any woman who sacrifices, like the mom who gives up her job to be the stay-at-home mom, or the mom who gives up something because her husband has a dream and they're gonna like move to this city for his job, or he wants to go to med school, so she'll give up her thing so he does that, or whatever. Like, and then the pedestal that woman is put on for making that sacrifice, and like the praise she is given, and all the, there's a word I'm looking for. It's not superlative, something else for like titles and virtues placed on a person for this action that they did, but my brain is too tired. That part I see 100% being paralleled. But then if like a man does it for a male presenting person does it for their female presenting partner, some people, you know, that are more equality minded would be just as praising of that and is so virtuous and, oh, what a great thing, what a noble thing you did for your partner. But I'm sure but there's more people who'd be like, oh, and even the insults are misogynistic, like, oh, what a pussy, like giving up this so his wife can be like live her dream or be the breadwinner or do this thing. That attitude definitely exists, you know? Oh yeah, that too. In the book, the balanced matches being highly encouraged to have babies so they can make more pilots. And then those babies are weaponized against them. Like when, again, spoiler territory, when one of the other balanced matches is forced to turn on them in like the final fight and like attacks the vermilion bird. I think it's the tortoise pair. And she's like, I'm so sorry. They have my kids. The kids they forced me to have. The kids that they told me I had to become impregnated with. They are now holding them hostage over my head to make me do what they want me to. Like, that was fucked up. That was fucked. Holy moly. Yeah, another one of the more... There's so many things about this book that are like... I want to say, oh, this is such a dystopian thing. This is so like, oh, what an extreme way to comment on our society. But then there's things happening in our actual society that are just as dystopian and like happening in real life. I'm like, this doesn't even feel, I have no hard time believing that that's the direction we're headed. Again, there is a woman, I believe right now, her name is Adriana Smith, I believe. I haven't looked at recent updates in the story, but there was a woman in Georgia, and this was a literal episode of the Handmaid's Tale television show like years ago, and it's now happening in real life. This thing that was meant to be, oh, look how horrifically dystopian and fucked up this is, now happening. There is a woman in a hospital in Georgia who is dead. Her body she's either brain dead or like there's been enough damage to her body that they're like, she's not coming back. She's on life support right now, and the only things keeping her alive are machines. She is considered, other than her heartbeat being kept going, she is dead. And any other time, and the family have wished for her to be put to rest. Adriana expressed before whatever happened to her that put her in this condition, like she talked with her, like she had expressed that she never wanted to be kept alive artificially. So it should be all right, well, we'll say our goodbyes and we'll let her go. But it was discovered while she was on life support, she was pregnant. She is now being kept alive against her wishes and against her family's wishes, kept, I say alive in quotes here, so she can have this baby. And then they'll go ahead and let her die. Because right now she is an incubator. She is being forced to keep her heart beating and her lungs artificially inflating so she can be an incubator for a child who also might not even survive. The child has some issues like with fluid in its brain or something. And like even doctors are like, this is a terrible idea. But the state is like, nah, man, we don't care. We don't care about her life. Really, we don't care about this child's life either, because it's not going to have quality of life when it's born. We just care about the principle of the thing. And they're charging them for it. The family is incurring the medical bills. It's so fucked up. It makes me enraged. It makes me absolutely enraged. So then shit like that happens, like things in this book, like where they make them have the babies and they use their babies as leverage to make them do what they want. I'm like, there's a woman right now who's going to be forced to give birth, even though she is not really sentient or around and will not parent this child. So is it dystopian, or is this just real life with robots and aliens? You know? Like, it's fucking insane. And it's infuriating. So do we see any of these things mirrored in our own society? Yes. Yes, is the short answer. 1,000% yes. Yeah, if that child does survive, it's going to end up in the system and probably have poor quality of life. All right. Next question in our discussion guide here. Does Xiran truly give consent when she agrees to take her clothes off in front of... Oh no. I don't know how to say this name. And I know I heard it in the audiobook. I don't remember how it was said to be. His last name is Gao. So we can just say his first name? Last name? I'm going to look up the pronunciation. And let's see how to pronounce. I don't want to hear it said in English. I want to hear it said in its language.
Gaucho.
Gaucho? Yes. Well, I'm going to say Gao, because that part's correct.
Gaucho.
Gaucho. Yeah, that sounds familiar from my audiobook. Anyways, Gao. Does Xiran truly give consent when she agrees to take her clothes off in front of Gao? In a patriarchal culture, how much free will do women really have when making choices? How do you think our modern legal system would judge the case if she later accused him of sexual coercion? I mean, our modern legal system, on paper, rules as written, I think she could and should win that case for sexual coercion. But again, the letter of the law, the spirit of the law are very different things. And in our world, it doesn't matter. Sometimes, even with all the evidence in the world against you, good enough lawyers, do their thing. It is what it is. And anything that involves sexual assault, misconduct, coercion, those cases, unfortunately, are just so hard. It's part of the reason why victims don't come forward so often, and they know that it might be fruitless. All the evidence in the world, and it might be fruitless. So again, on paper, I think in our modern legal system, the case could go in her favor, but I would never be confident any sexual assault case. You could have filmed the guy, like you could have filmed someone assaulting you, and in today's world, they'll find a way to say the film was tampered with, or that this was filmed without consent, so it's inadmissible, or this, that, or the other. Like, who the fuck? There was one case I literally heard about. Hi, Riza. There was a case where a girl was horrifically raped, and her assaulter ejaculated inside her, so she quickly, like when he was left and was finished, she put a tampon or something in there to try and absorb like the sperm, the genetic material, like some, because she thought like, oh, this will no, wait, hold on. Sorry, I mixed it up. She had a tampon in, and she was raped. And then the guy so aggressively raped her, so the tampon was shoved so far into her cervix, and she had to have, like, medical surgery to get it out, and there was so much damage done. And they used that, somehow tried to rule that they're like, well, clearly it wasn't rape because she put it there, and, like, she premeditated and put the tampon there, so it wasn't rape because she was intending for this to happen or something. Like, something absolutely abhorrent and bonkers. Where is it? I don't know, James. It should be in the cupboard. Check if he knocked it off his bed by the piano. I don't know. You could always go ahead and open the second one, and I can help you look for it later. I have no idea. Sorry. Puppy wrangling question. I haven't picked it up, so he must have knocked it somewhere. Done something. I don't think I picked it up. I'm sorry, I'm no help. Anyways, that's what I mean. So, like, this... Okay, there you go, we found it. Going back to what we're talking about, I basically have zero confidence ever in any legal system, no matter how much evidence you have, if it's a sexual assault, misconduct, coercion case. Because, again, even with what seems like overwhelming evidence, either a good lawyer or misogyny will find a way. What a quote. Either or. And do I think she truly gives consent? No, of course not. Because you cannot give informed consent if there's consequences to you saying no. If there is fear of what saying no will bring, doesn't matter even if it's sexual or any context. If you feel you cannot say no because there will be negative repercussions, then your yes is invalid. It doesn't have to be for sex. It could be for going to dinner. It could be for, like, a workplace promotion. It could be for, like, I don't know, anything. You're doing a, like, collab content creation wise, but you're afraid to say no because you think they're gonna do something to you if you don't. Like, I don't know. If you cannot give consent, if you can't say no without fear, your yes doesn't count. End of the day. In this case, if she said no to him, he had direct control. He was controlling her. He had access to her salary. He was directly linked to how she could support herself, make money. He had access to someone she loved. He was the father of someone she loved, and there could be consequences that way if she angered him. Like, there was so many factors at play. So the obvious answer is no. No. Yeah, in a patriarchal culture, how much free will do women really have when making choices? Yeah. In this world, very little. Women have very, very, very little will, because, again, they only serve two purposes. They're either going to be concubine pilots, probably die, or be a wife and mother. The exception, you're a concubine pilot who has high pressure and you survive. And you become a celebrity. And you become the tool that is used to try and give hope to other girls that there's a chance that doing this isn't just abuse and an early death sentence, but it could be something great. So, in this world, no, there is no free will. Not no, there's very, very minimal. There's very, very little free will. And obviously, in modern society in various parts of the world, a lot less black and white than that. But I would definitely say there's times where a lot of women face the illusion of choice because of fear of consequences of their choices. And so it's like, well, like, she had a choice, but then you have to stop and think, did she, though? Like, but did she? And again, so many, like, sexual assault cases, and it's like, oh, well, she had a choice to do these acts with her aggressor. No, she didn't. No, she did not. And again, like, that also hits fairly personal for me, because I've been open that I am an assault survivor. When I was a teenager, when I was 18, when I was her age, where, again, it wasn't the textbook, like, oh, a violent aggressor, and I was, like, physically forced, but I was coerced because there was implied fear, there was implied threat, there was the impression. Aside from, I was plied with lots of alcohol as well, so I was not sober enough to give informed consent. But then on top of that, it was under a scenario where the heavy implication I was under was, I'm going to tell everyone you did this anyway, so you might as well do it, and then I won't tell anyone. Like, that was the vibe. So I performed sexual things that I would not have and did not want to in any other context. That is assault. My choice there was not a choice. Illusion of choice. Coercion, uninformed consent. Exactly. So, no, she did not give consent. They do not have the ability to give informed consent in this book, and many women in modern day world are put in similar situations. There we go. All the time. Again, the feminine rage. This book is summed up in 2 words: feminine rage, with robots. 4 words. All right, the last question in the discussion guide in the book. Also, there's an ad break coming up in 30 seconds, so I apologize. But hey, if you don't want ads, consider subscribing. The final question. What do you think would have happened to Zhetian if she hadn't chosen to sacrifice her family as collateral damage in order to kill the sages at the end? I mean, what do I think would have happened? That part's a bit of a blur. There was so much going on at the end. I definitely remember them, like, trying to use her family to manipulate her. And she said, yeah, get fucked. My family treated me like shit. I don't care. Which at that point I was like, as someone who has never, at times, been close with her family and to date is not close with certain parts of her family, and for a while actively put effort into maintaining as much distance as possible from them. But that part I was like, relate. Yes, fucking get it. Yes, girl, fuck them. Don't let them emotionally manipulate you with family. Who cares? The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. The real expression, blood is thicker than water, is a lie. But I clearly, maybe because I was distracted, because audiobook at the time, I missed the part where they actually killed them. Shows what I know. But either way, I was fucking living for that moment. I was living. As for what would have happened to her, I mean, what, she would have, like, done the noble thing, like, given herself up to protect her family. I mean, clearly they would have killed her. They would have killed her because they were manipulating and blackmailing the pear and the tortoise, whose names I cannot remember. They were manipulating the balanced pear and the tortoise to attack her and Ximin during the final battle. Clearly the intent was to kill her. She was becoming too powerful and too uncontrollable, and they're like, she is a threat, get rid of her. So 1000%, if she had done that, I'm sure it wouldn't have been like, oh, we're gonna find a way to, it's not gonna be like, well, we're gonna send you and your family to somewhere to live in obscurity where you can't be a problem. She will always be a problem. She represented all the things they didn't want. She has become the representation of, like, the dangers of allowing women free will, the dangers of allowing women to have any scrap of power. Like, she is the embodiment of that to them. She would have died. So I have no doubt in my mind that what would have happened to her if she hadn't chosen to sacrifice her family is death. She would have been killed. Maybe not immediately, but pretty dang soon. Pretty dang close, you know? They told her families in the palace of the sages. Right, she turned the palace to rubble with everyone inside. That's, yes. See, I forgot that in the audiobook reading of it. I guess I've missed the part, or I forgot the part that her family were inside. I thought they were just telling, like, we have them, and they played her, like, audio of them. Forgot they were in there. I still say she did the right thing. Fuck her family. Not literally. Don't do that. That's incest. But yeah, that part I was like, yes! Living for that part. So that is all the discussion questions that are in the back of this book. Obviously, if you stuck around, I'm assuming you've already read it because we talked heavy spoilers. Like, we just talked about the literal final fight and the ending of the book. And here be the sequel in its box. I haven't opened it yet, but clearly I plan on reading it. Obviously, this is a duology, so this next book is the last one. So this plus this equals completed series. So that's also very exciting. As someone who normally loves the longer a series, the better. My favorite book series of all time is 14 books long, and every book is massive. And I know Ryza in the chat, our last book was Death Becomes Her, which is part of a series and then expanded universe of, like, literally literally tens and tens of books, like 30 plus books. Certain parts of the sequel make me mad. I'm sure they will, especially because, again, I'm so invested in their little polycule. And if they don't get to be a happily ever after polycule, I'm going to be very upset. If Shitien, Shimin, and Iju don't get to... Sorry, captions. I'm so sorry, Pixel Chat users, for those names. But if they don't get to be a happy little triangle polycule, I'm going to be very upset. But I also am positive one of them's not making it to the end. 1,000%. Technically, one of them kind of sort of didn't to the end of this book. And then the last big reveal was, hey, guess what? He might be alive. Not even might. They're like, hey, we have him. He's in a weird form. He's not as you knew him, but like, he's alive. Asterisk. Come get him. Yeah, sort of alive. He's alive, kind of, sort of, maybe. The other thing that's fun, and I'm glad, even though, like I said, I have the physical copy, but I read the audiobook, I do love that this book, you get, like, concept art, and you get, like, some size references, and some cool art for the different forms of the robots. Which is sick. Oh, and before we sign off, I'll say one more thing that I just have to share with y'all who read this book, that I felt so dumb, okay? I felt so dumb. So obviously the book's called Iron Widow. And if you read the book, you know, like, what the book talks a lot in the beginning about what the Iron Prince and Iron Princess are. So therefore, and with context, you should know also what an Iron Widow is. And we know our protagonist, we know Shitien, is gonna be is somehow directly related to this title of Iron Widow, right? But when she first becomes a concubine and gets paired with her first partner, who was the guy she was there to kill, right? And avenge her sister. Captain Yang? No, hold on. Yeah, Captain Yang. Yongguan. That was his name, so Yang. I thought they were gonna be the enemies to lovers. I thought it was gonna be because she has her brief moment of, oh, well, maybe he's not a terrible person just because he's putting on the charm. Like, maybe some part of him, blah, blah, blah. And then she's like, no, you were just being a manipulative asshole. And he dies. She kills him so fast. Holy shit. I thought there was going to be a lot longer timeline of her and Yongguan together before, but boom, that was over. And I was like, oh my God. And it like rocked my world for a minute. I was like, holy shit, I can't believe the author did that. And then I was like, Laura, what's the title of the book? Because killing him would make her an Iron Widow. I was just like, come on. Like, I felt so dumb for being so, like, shocked. Because also, again, as someone who normally prides themselves in predicting what I think I see as plot twists, and someone who can see, you know, surprises and things come in. And then that happened. I was like, oh my God, so early. Holy shit. Ah. Because I also, might have also just been because I was waiting for my enemies to lovers moment. And I still got it. I still got my enemies to lovers. And it felt great. The journey, again, other than how enragingly judgmental and the horrible thing she said to him at the beginning, but hey, it really sold the enemies part real well. Other than that, it was a great little enemies to lovers, their whole thing. I loved it so much. Their journey felt so natural and was so well written between Shitien and Shimin. But then I also love, because normally it'd be like, oh, my first love, and it was my childish, naive love. Now I'll get over it for my, like, adult love. But they're like, no. Or we could just polyamory. Or it could be like, no, her first love, maybe a little bit naive and childish, but also still grounded in real feelings and real virtues and real compatibility. Why do we have to replace that, though? Why not? Yes, and. Why not both? ¿Por qué no los dos? And it was great. Yeah, you got enemies to lovers and best friend to lovers. It's great. I wouldn't say you got enemies to lovers twice, because, like, Yongguan was, like, a hint of enemies to lovers. Like, it was a hint that the author might be going that way, doing it, but then, psych, she kills him real damn fast. He dead as hell. But then we got the actual enemies. It was the first red herring false alarm. But again, also, like, in the title. Technically in the title of the book. Technically, we knew all along, if we had any sense of foreshadowing. So I felt dumb as fuck when I was so surprised. I felt dumb as fuck. But yeah, there we go. that is my thoughts on this book and my answers to the questions in the back of the book. I'm excited. I know, Heather, you're reading the second one right now. I have no idea when I'm going to get around to it. I have the audiobook copy for the second one on hold. But there's so many people ahead of me because the second book only just released in 2025. So, but again, like, so the physical copy's here, but I don't have much time to sit and read physical books anymore, thanks to Puppy. Oh, you're right. There is enemies to lovers twice because one of them is a male relationship. You're right. Because they're kind of like, yeah, true. I'm dumb sometimes, you know? But I'm also very sleep deprived. Because dog. I was telling James this is probably, I adore him. I love him. He is my son. He is my fur baby. But as someone with chronic illness, with chronic fatigue and chronic pain, this is my first and last puppy. I'm glad I did it. I got the experience. I am not physically capable of doing this again. I have had my first big chronic fatigue / fibro flare since we got him. After 3 weeks of my disrupted sleep schedule, thanks to Puppy. It was one of my top 5 probably flare-ups of all time. Wasn't great. Feel bad for my poor husband who's just sitting there like, can I help? Can I do anything? Do we need to go to the hospital? Like, and just like watching me writhe on the floor in pain. But hey. So yeah, I thank you for hanging with me. Heather, thank you for reading the book, continuing to be part of book club. Anyone who's been lurking, thank you for hanging out. The book club invite is always, the bot always has it ready. If you ever want to invite people, you can always just like throw up my Twitch channel and type that in the chat, and it'll, actually no, it won't. If I'm not live, the bot's not on. Haha, lies. But that Discord invite right there never expires. It's on the screen. It's around. I put them in the link of the YouTube videos of these chats, and we would love to have more people join us. We currently have a list of books in there right now being voted on. Right now we have a nonfiction title in the lead, which is very exciting and a break from our norm. The book The Radium Girls is in the lead right now. The story of America's Shining Women, I think it's called. I'm gonna look. The Radium Girls, the dark story of America's Shining Women. Yeah. It is winning right now with 4 votes. But I'm still gonna leave the poll up for a day or two. We're reading that book regardless, because this is going to be one of the months where we potentially do 2 books, because for my nonfiction friends, I want to pick a book every once in a while. So it's one of those months. But if another title on our list also gets as many votes or more, then I will read 2 books this month, and everyone else can choose to read either one or both. If it wins the main poll as well, then it'll be our only book this month. I'm about 16% of the way through, because I, again, am doing the audiobook for The Radium Girls. The narrator of the audiobook for Radium Girls is not as good as the audiobook narrator for Iron Widow. But the book itself is good, so I'm still enjoying it. But I'm listening to this one on like 1.25 or 1.5 speed, because I don't like the narrator as much. So if you're in the Discord, make sure you go vote on our new round of books. Please go vote. There's 11 choices. Don't ask me why 11. There could be more. I was like, Laura, there's a lot. You need to stop. I wanted to put like 6 more on here, just on my TBR shelf. And then we'll be back next month. We'll definitely be talking about the Radium Girls next month, no matter what. But we might also be talking about another book. So thanks for being here. Thanks for hanging. Again, feel free to come and check out my non-book club streams as well. I post my schedule. I keep the Twitch little schedule module up to date, because my normal schedule's out the window thanks to Puppy, but you can check that to see when our next For Surezies scheduled stream is coming up. And we're gonna have a lot of special streams this summer because of our St. Jude campaign that just wrapped up. I have to do a Mythical Kitchen cooking stream, a blind taste test stream. James and I are gonna do a playthrough of Split Fiction together. I'm doing a 10-hour Read With Me stream sometime coming up, which will really be like so many hours of Read With Me with hour breaks of Puppy's awake. Now it's a puppy stream. Hang with me and Puppy. But who doesn't love puppies? People that are wrong. That is who. So thanks for hanging, everybody. I'm going to go say goodnight to him before he goes to nap for his last nap of the day. And I will see y'all next time. Thanks so much for being here. I had a lot of fun. I was nervous for like, how do I just on my own with no guests talk about this book for an hour. But damn, we did it. We out here. Time flew. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your evening and your week. I'll see y'all soon for either another book club stream or one of my regular streams.